Have you started wondering what life will be like when we get on the other side of this COVID-19 pandemic, the social distancing, the work and school from home? What will we learn? Tonight, we have the perspective of local futurist Steve Brown. He makes predictions and advises businesses. First question for Steve: how will our behavior change?
I'm starting to think about what will be different for us. How will we feel different? How will we show up differently in the world? And in some ways, it's too early to tell. But some of the obvious things are, our lives are going to be more digital and perhaps less physical. Here we are. Normally, I would come into a TV studio to talk to you, but now we're talking digitally, and I'm in my home and you're in your home. We are seeing probably people going to want to exert more control over their lives because we have felt out of control, and probably less trust. So more control, less trust. We're going to want to be given information about what we're buying, where it came from, that sort of thing. More local, less global. Perhaps more gesture interfaces, where we can use our hands to gesture, and less touch, because we've all been used to using this recently, and this is a petri dish now. So those touch surfaces in fast food stores and the checkout lines at Safeway, they may have to go away and move to more gesture interfaces. And similarly, when we interact with each other, we're used to shaking hands. Maybe we don't so much anymore. Maybe we just wave. So moving to more gesture, less touch.
It's interesting stuff. Steve's going to continue to answer other questions this half hour, including what changes he expects in business. So many of you have asked, how much longer will this stay-at-home order be in place? It's a topic that we want to take to public health specialist Dr. Claire Wheeler. Dr. Wheeler, thank you so much for joining us as always. Now, we've been hearing things like these restrictions may be eased here in Oregon if there are about 10 days without any deaths from COVID-19. Realistically, though, do we see things easing up without a vaccine?
Realistically, no. This is a topic that is very much on everyone's minds, and even though those of us in public health who really prioritize health over just about everything, we recognize that we have to get people working, and we have to get back out into the world and maintain our economy. In an ideal world, we would stay in isolation until we have a vaccine and everyone's vaccinated and an effective treatment. But we won't have that for a year, probably at least a year. Fingers crossed that we will. Meanwhile, we have to have testing. The only way to really safely move people back out into the workplace and school and out into the social realm is if we can test everybody for antibodies to the virus. Those tests are just now really being developed and distributed, so we don't have the capability to know who's immune so that it's safe for them to go out. And so the vision will be to get everybody tested for the antibodies, let the people who are immune get out there and get going while the rest of us wait for a vaccine to happen. Ideally, that's what we'll do, but with all the pressure that is being placed now on our leaders, I'm really not sure what the decision is going to be. But this 10 days after the last death sounds a little arbitrary to me, and really is not how you decide a pandemic is over.
When we talk about the severity in the way that this affects individual people, you mentioned that some people are immune, and then we keep hearing that a lot of people are asymptomatic, so they have the virus, but they don't show any of the symptoms. What about those people who are asymptomatic? Do they have an exceptionally good immune system? What makes someone asymptomatic when it comes to this virus?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is something, again, that I think there is a little bit of confusion about. And I think the more appropriate term really is pre-symptomatic. And I actually just read something about this in the New England Journal today, because so far, it appears that at least 80% or so of people who don't have the symptoms but test positively for the virus will eventually develop symptoms. So it's really a stage before you get sick. And the other bit of confusion about this asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic is the symptoms are actually more broad than we used to think. There can be GI symptoms like nausea, diarrhea, vomiting. And there can be neurological symptoms as well. So when we start talking about symptoms, we have really had to broaden or lengthen the list of things that we consider to be symptoms of this infection. And we also have to understand that if you test positive for it, chances are very good that you will get sick. It's just a question of how severely and when.
And we've been talking about people wearing masks, mostly for those people who are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic so that they're not spreading this virus unknowingly to people out in public. Is there a recommendation when it comes to masks, the type that people should be wearing at home, like a cloth mask? Should they be washing it every single time they come inside? And if that's true, what about other types of clothing that we wear, like jackets and hats? Should we be washing all of that in between uses?
Yeah. Bottom line, yes. And the CDC actually does have some advice about that on their website. You definitely need to wash the mask after every time you use it and in as hot a water as you can and dry it on high heat as well. It's also a good idea to keep a hamper with a liner by the door. And when you come back from, especially if you've been shopping or around other people, take off all your outer layers, put them in that hamper, and then get that right into the washing machine. Do not pass go. And the CDC also reminds people, don't shake the clothing. You know how sometimes you shake things before you put them in the washing machine? Don't do that because particles and dust can fly off of the clothing into the air that you're breathing. And another thing that people really need to remember is shoes. All of us should have indoor shoes and outdoor shoes, and never the twain shall meet.
Interesting. Okay, Dr. Claire Wheeler, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your time and your thoughtful answers. We'll touch base with you down the line. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Now, at any time, you can send your questions to the number you see on your screen now, 503-226-5111. If we don't get to yours tonight, we'll be answering questions right here at 7 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And a big question that's making the rounds on the internet right now is a link between 5G and the coronavirus. Our Verify team has the answer for you. But first, with the changing mask guidelines, you wanted to know, can children wear masks? The answer, the Oregon Health Authority says that they shouldn't be used on kids under 2 years old. Never put a mask or face covering on an infant or an adult who is not able to adjust or remove the mask themselves. This could compromise their ability to breathe. Our next question tonight, is there a link between COVID-19 and 5G technology? Celebrities like Woody Harrelson have shared that thought. Jason Puckett with our Verify team checks it out.
So we're talking about 5G. That's the 5th generation of wireless cellular technology. Now 5G uses new tech to send faster signals to your devices. Supporters claim speeds that are 2 to hundreds of times faster than existing cell tech. And providers have been building 5G towers in the US and other countries since early 2018. So why are we talking about 5G and COVID-19? Well, there are multiple claims right now that link the spread of the virus to the spread of 5G technology across the world. Let's break down a few. This video being shared claims to show a group of people in China tearing down a 5G tower. That's false. It is a real video from China, but it's from last year during protests in Hong Kong. Here's the same video on The Guardian in August, months before the coronavirus was spreading. It shows protesters tear down a smart lamppost with cameras and surveillance tech, so it's not even a 5G tower. Claim false. Then there's this long post going around. This screen grab is actually from Woody Harrelson's Instagram before he deleted the post. It makes a lot of claims. The main one, though, that Wuhan, China, where COVID-19 was first reported, was also, quote, China's first 5G smart city, and that the, quote, epidemic only became rapidly more severe as the numbers of 5G antennas skyrocketed. So did COVID-19 numbers only get worse as more 5G tech was installed? No. Chinese media shows that Wuhan was one of China's first 5G smart cities, but they've been rolling out technology since February 2018. That's more than 2 years ago. And the installation of some 5G tech has been halted as quarantines went into effect. So they had plenty of 5G before the virus, and the virus didn't become more severe as more towers were built. Claim false. It's also worth noting some of the countries with relatively high COVID-19 cases, like France and Iran, don't have any 5G tech currently installed. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr called out the claims that link COVID-19 to 5G as being, quote, from the most dangerous depths of tinfoil hatland. He said that COVID-19 is not spread by radio waves. And this is important. These claims linking COVID-19 and 5G are just combining two unrelated things and trying to frighten people. There is a separate story here as researchers look into the long-term effects of 5G, but it has nothing whatsoever to do with COVID-19. It's unfortunate that millions of people and celebrities are sharing these ideas, so if you see more out there, send us an email and we'll find out what's true. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
Projections for Oregon show that our Stay Home, Save Lives order is working. So how much longer will we have to follow this social distancing guidelines? Dr. John Torres shares his thoughts.
Projections for Oregon show that our Stay Home, Save Lives order is working. And a lot of viewers are wondering if we'll have to keep doing this sort of, extreme physical distancing, social distancing for months.
And that's what we're seeing across the country, different areas, especially hotspots like you guys were for a while there. It seems to be working to do the social distancing, the staying at home, because we're flattening that curve that everybody talks about, meaning we're having less cases. The issue becomes what happens going forward. And what they're now saying is that even though we thought it could probably disappear this summer, now they're saying it doesn't look like it's going to disappear, it's going to stick around. So more than likely what will happen is we'll slowly let people go back to work and go back to near normal lives over the next few weeks or months. But it's going to be a while before we get back to what we were before. And that means that essentially doing the things that we know work, staying away from people, staying away from big crowds, at least into the early summer. And then beyond that, hopefully opening things up a bit more. But if we do detect hot spots, then shutting everything down again to make sure they don't crop up into the areas that we've been before.
Up next, so many people are having trouble securing unemployment or getting through the system. You wanted to know what's being done to speed up the claims process. But first, we asked our futurist, Steve Brown, if he's still optimistic after this health crisis. The former futurist at Intel now runs baldfuturist.com.
If you think about other times in the history of humans, think about World War II. That was a really difficult time, extreme circumstances for millions of people around the planet. But what came out of that was massive amounts of innovation. So modern air travel came out of World War II. Jet engines, pressurized cabins, radar, air traffic control, all a function of World War II. Rockets came out of World War II. Without rockets, we wouldn't have satellites, communication satellites, GPS. There would be no Uber today without that. As you put constraints on the world, it's going to make people more innovative, and it's going to accelerate innovation that maybe was going to happen anyway, but it's going to make the world a better.
People are concerned for their loved ones in nursing homes, and you wanted to know why we're seeing so many deaths from coronavirus in nursing homes. Kyla Boshi has the answer.
Sadly, we are seeing an especially high number of deaths among seniors living in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. In fact, just this weekend, the state of Oregon released some new data which showed 24 deaths among seniors. That accounts for about half of all coronavirus-related deaths in the state of Oregon. So why is that? Well, health officials say a couple of reasons. One, many of these seniors have underlying health conditions. Also, they're living in fairly close quarters. Germs can spread very easily in a situation like that with communal eating, people living so close to one another. Also, they're exposed to staff, and while they may be living in one facility, they are exposed to some degree to the outside world as staff comes and goes. Which kind of leads to the second question, what's the state doing about it? This weekend, the state came out and said a couple of things. One, they're helping with staffing, providing additional resources. Also helping with protective equipment for those staff members who are working at these nursing homes. And finally, helping out with logistics.
That's Kyla Boshi, thank you. The Oregon numbers show a record for unemployment claims. What is being done, though, to speed up those claims? Pat Doris tells us.
The agency says it's hiring as fast as it can, and it's bringing people in from other departments and training them up. They've put together a team of about 400 people now, and they're working 7 days a week. But it's clearly still not even close to being enough. Over the last 3 weeks, all of these claims that have been filed, only about half of them have actually been processed. And the agency says it probably will take about 3 weeks from the time you file that claim until you get your first check.
And here's another answer from futurist Steve Brown, how he thinks businesses will change after the coronavirus.
One of the things that I think many businesses have realized is the fragility of the modern world. And all of a sudden, suddenly everything got turned upside down. So a lot of businesses are going to be making moves to try and make sure that they can be much more resilient in the future. That's going to mean they're going to might simplify their supply chains. They might bring some manufacturing back from far-flung shores. So near shore or onshore their manufacturing. And I think we're going to see a lot of innovation in supply chain as well. So as consumers start, we all feel out of control right now, we're going to want to reassert control over our lives. And one of the ways that we want to do that is to know much more about the products that we buy. Where did they come from? What did it take to make them? How much energy is used in them? Are they safe to eat? Was child labor used to make this? We're going to take much more control over that, and supply chains are going to have to build much more transparency and traceability so that they can start to give us that information to help us make informed decisions about our purchases, but also to be able to prove it.
Tonight at 7:30 on KGW.
To all of my fellow healthcare workers, police, fire, and everyone else on the front lines, thank you.
The first wave of federal stimulus money showed up in some bank accounts today. You asked how to get the payment money if you're on Social Security or disability.
If you're a Social Security recipient or if you're on disability, you don't have to do anything to get the stimulus money. I'm Tiffany Craig. You heard that, right? You don't need to file anything or update anything to get the check. The IRS is merging information from the SSA 1099 form. You're going to get the check the same way you currently get benefits, either by direct deposit or a paper check. There is one exception though, if you have children under the age of 17. If you do, go to irs.gov/coronavirus. You'll find an application form there that you need to fill out. Submitting that form can get you an extra $500 per child.
On April 17th, the IRS plans to launch an online tool called Get My Payment. This will let you check the status of your payment and find out when it will be deposited into your bank account or mailed to you. If you're wondering how much you'll get from the first stimulus package, we've made it easy. Text the word check to 503-226-5111. We will send you a link to a stimulus check calculator. Now, some of you have been looking for ways to avoid the grocery store. We know about online delivery and home delivery, but our Joe Ranieri has another option.
Good evening to you, and there is no doubt restaurants across the country are finding different ways to be creative in this economic downturn, and that's no different here at McCormick and Schmick's. Sure, they're offering the curbside service, but they're also offering a new service, and that's groceries. They'll bring everything from milk, eggs, steak, seafood right to your car, and I talked with a representative with the restaurant who told me she wanted to find ways to not only pay her employees, but also pay the people who deliver all the goods here.
To be honest, the whole point was we wanted to get people back to work, and that includes not only our employees, but our vendors as well.
I spoke with one customer who told me she's thankful the restaurant is offering this service, especially right now. Not only can she get her meals to help her family and, of course, her neighbors, but she can also avoid the crowds at the grocery store.
Thank you to Joe and to all of you. Thanks for being with us tonight. If you have questions, our past stories may have some answers for you. You can go to kgw.com/answers to see all of our past Q&As. Thanks for being with us tonight. Remember, we are here every night, Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock to answer your